Hey, Lori. Hey, Shannon. Thanks for joining us. Hey, everybody. Welcome. We are so excited to have you all here. I am Dave Meyer, the president of BusyWeb, and here with me, as always, I have the amazing Trygve Olson, who
Hey,
is going to be helping us and giving a lot of detail today about how to use inbound marketing to recruit the best employees. Trygve shared with me, I think I knew this, but I'm not positive, that you were a recruiter in a past life.
in a
So
past life, yes, I used to be a recruiter for a Fortune 500 company.
with me as always, I have
So
perfect.
I know the pain that HR people and recruiters are feeling right now. It's a wild time in the hiring market.
Settling down just a little bit, it feels like, but there's so much going on, and actually it's become a specialty of BusyWeb in helping recruiting companies to market their services better. So
Absolutely.
we
Yeah.
we did, as part of pulling together today's talk, we polled all of our team members about their tips and tricks, what they want to share and let everybody know. It looks like we have a couple of those clients here with us, so that's super cool as well.
No needs.
And
Hi, everybody.
we've got a fun talk today. So let's get started, Trygve, and just share a little bit. I guess we sort of leaned into this, but if you'd like to get a hold of us, you might want to know who we are and what we do if you're not familiar with us. But BusyWeb is, of course, a growth marketing agency located in Minneapolis. And we have about 22 folks that work with us. And we've been doing this since '99. So we're zooming in on our 25th year in a few months. So that'll be pretty amazing.
That's pretty crazy to think 25 years.
A quarter of a century. I feel old enough. So in other interesting news, it looks like I'm wearing the same shirt that I'm wearing from that picture. So I'm nothing if not consistent.
I had a streak of wearing that same shirt in that picture for about 8 or 9 webinars in a row. It just so happened to be my webinar shirt. So I'm glad I changed before I got to work this morning.
Indeed. But yeah, kind of wrapping up what we do. We're a HubSpot agency. We're accredited, which is the PhD level certification that takes a ton of months and time. And we do everything that you need to do to get your CRM and your business set up, including, of course, driving leads and contacts to your door, and then helping you convert those leads by using your CRM and marketing and sales automation. So would love to chat with you if you have questions on any of those things. And I hope today's event is going to be helpful to you. Without further ado, let's get started. And Trygve, I know that these are some things that you had. So tell us more about
I
the
think
steps.
Dave, our life typically focuses around sales, and usually in sales, the first thing to do when you're working with people is to actually validate the problem. And so as people are looking for new ways to find really talented, qualified employees, that's why I wanted to start by actually saying that it is genuinely a problem in 2022 and 2023 with some statistics. So I looked at some reporting, and about 65% of all companies right now are reporting recruitment of talented employees as a major need. And so then it becomes a question, well, what's the problem? Why aren't the recruiters doing their job? Well, since the pandemic, recruitment workload has increased exponentially. 28% doesn't seem like that much, but if you really think of how busy you are in any given week, adding another 28% on top of that through new job recs and new needs and new specializations becomes even more complicated.
Mm-hmm.
So the other thing to keep in mind, if you hit the next slide, is the unemployment rate right now is at almost a historical low. The historical low is about 2.5% right before the pandemic, and now it's 3.56%. So the ability to find a really qualified candidate just by putting up an ad and saying, "Hey, let's go," that's harder than ever.
Mm-hmm.
These days. So recruitment is an art. It's a relationship building. it's not just order taking by reading all the resumes that come in and going. It's really become harder than ever, because now what recruiters and people who are responsible for finding new employees have to do is they have to go pirate them from other organizations, and they have to find really talented people. And in order to entice those talented people to come over, not only do they have to listen to them to understand what their problems are with their current workforce, but maybe potentially offer them a better solution, and then actually offer them a better solution. So
For sure.
that sounds remarkably like a flywheel that we've talked about before on this webinar that we're going to circle back around to.
Yeah. Well, and I think the other thing for explicitly recruitment agencies is they actually have two clients, and they have to market in two ways. Yep. They have the hiring candidates themselves, as well as the companies that they're helping staff for. So we have kind of a mix of our clients. Every single one of our clients is looking for people right now, is looking to hire. And so that's easy, or that's at least consistent. I want more people. But to also be able to engage those businesses that want help, as well as just finding new team, is kind of a pat in your head and rubbing your tummy kind of thing, or walking and chewing gum. So it takes a little bit more as far as the effort required to connect with both sides.
Well, and that's a great point, Dave. And also it's good to keep in mind that recruitment is hands down the most difficult sales job there is, period. Mm-hmm. Because in any sales job, you are selling a product, you're selling a service, you're selling some of the opportunity to help somebody make more money, save more money, have a different relationship with time. However, in a traditional sales model, once you make that sale, then the buyer gets the thing, and then you're gone.
Right.
But recruiters have to do all of that work by selling that object, that MacGuffin, that thing, that person who has those features and benefits to fill that company's need. And then they have to turn around and go to the product and explain to the product how they're going to be really happy. And they're having to do both sides of the equation. So it is hands down one of the most difficult selling jobs that you can do. And it's also the most heartbreaking, because because if you go to the next slide, statistically speaking, you spend more time awake with people you work with than with your family. Mm-hmm. If you think about that, in my life, I get up at about 6:30, and by about 8 o'clock, everybody's out and at work. And then I go to work, and then 8 to 5, I'm at work. So that's about 9 hours worth of time there on my waking hours, as opposed to an hour and a half I've spent with my family. But then later, I'm spending maybe, I don't know, another 4 or 5 hours with my family. So it still doesn't even match up. Mm-hmm. And now with the pandemic happening, people realize that a work-life balance is even more critically important to their overall mental health. So what's changed that now is just like in the car buying experience pre-internet, when the car dealers understood how much the prices were on a car and you were at the mercy to get a good deal, information sort of flattened that out. And now, because of specialization and because of the opportunity to have a more robust need set from an applicant than just how much money do I make, it's a buyer's market right now.
And totally. And the other thing that the pandemic unleashed is there really isn't any locality as far as, or location specific need for applicants anymore. Like, I don't have to have only employees in the Minneapolis area for BusyWeb, right?
Right.
So we can have people all over the country. As a matter of fact, during the pandemic, we picked up someone in Silicon Valley, and I think that's all we had right now. But doesn't matter where we are.
Well, we have people in Wisconsin. We've dealt with people overseas.
Right.
We deal with people in Miami. With our client base is all over the country.
Yeah, our clients are all over for sure.
Yeah. So the point being is, that used to be a problem. what we have on screen here, that you have to like the people you work with. Now, if you're applying for a job, you're not applying for a job, you're applying to be part of a community. And that's something that we're going to hit over and over again, and how we can market that. So as I said, Dave, right now it's a buyer's market. And much like as we preach the flywheel for the customer experience, there is now a flywheel for the applicant experience. And they're asking more in-depth questions than ever before. The one thing that has been so fascinating about the pandemic is everybody doesn't have to be at the same place to necessarily to get work done.
Right.
Yes, there's value in face-to-face interactions. There's value in being together, but is that the right thing for everybody to have them in the same place at the same time? The answer is no. It really depends on the person. It really depends on the opportunity. We've spent a ton of time working with a company called HubSpot that they have thousands of people that don't go to the office every single day.
Right. And they actually just shut down their headquarters because they're like, well, we don't need it. So
yeah. So now the real question that people are asking is, what's a great work-life balance? And that's something that, you and I as Gen Xers kind of roll our eyes at it 5 or 6 years ago, thinking that, shut up and go to work. But that's not really the case anymore, because now that's becoming critically important to just everyone, to simply everyone. And one of the things that we've been lucky to see on the forefront of digital technology is that more and more applicants are looking to apply on the go and on the fly, using mobile technology, either being able to fill something out on their phone or on a tablet. But they're never going to sit down in front of a computer, write a full cover letter, change a resume, and then add that. That's just not happening anymore. Yeah. And part of that is because really those applicants are looking for a community to join. And one of the things that a lot of really big companies are using TikTok as a great equalizer for is to be providing career advice for people who are coming into the workplace. I know your daughter is in high school. She just got her first job. And that was a big adjustment for her. And she's doing great, which is great. Now what's the next step? And now what's the next step? So now all of that information is right at her fingertips to access. And it's that same inbound methodology idea that I'm going to provide you with the great information so that I can also demonstrate what it's like to be a part of my organization. So,
right, exactly. Well, and I think as we build this, and again, we do have a Q&A tool open for all of our attendees. So if you have specific questions about how to do marketing and or engagement for applicants, I know that was one of the questions that people sent in addition or in advance. I think the specific question was, how do we recruit for highly skilled positions? So, that's an example that we will get to in a minute.
Yeah, we're absolutely going to talk about that, because that's really the money question.
Yeah, please feel free to use the Q&A tool both on YouTube and on Zoom to ask your questions, because this is, of course, your time. Yeah. But Trygve, let's get into a little bit more detail on what applicants actually want from their employers now.
Well, it's really sort of shocking. I looked at a Gallup poll of what are the most important things to job applicants right now, and I listed them in order. Money was not the first on the list. Money was last on the list. Really what people are looking for is, how can this company affect my personal well-being? Am I given the opportunity to do what I do best, not the things that I don't do well? Is it going to be a job that I'm really going to be able to be successful at? And am I going to be there for a long time? Does it have a career path for me to go from X to Y to Z and really spend a lot of growth? Because what those applicants are looking at is, where am I going to invest my waking hours and my time?
Right.
And then next on the list is inclusive of all types of people. That, which is really just sort of shocking, because in a day and age where half the world thinks the other half of the world is wrong, that nobody really, there's a dulling effect of that being important, and more people just want to get along. More people are saying they just want to have the opportunity to be who they are. And then finally, the money, which is obviously it's a critical difference maker in a lot. But what this tells us is we validate, and is sort of rounding third on the validation of the problem that recruitment is really challenging in 2023, is all things being equal, if the money's the same and the culture and the community fit aren't as good, then you're going to lose.
Right.
And so what are the things that we can offer people that's going to be a difference maker beyond money? It's culture and community. So that's what we're going to spend a lot of time talking about, how to market differently and how to approach candidates differently with those community and culture aspects in hand.
Right. And what you see here on screen is actually a cheat sheet of everything that you need to have and spell out well on your website if you want to be attractive to employees.
Yes, absolutely. It's fun to look at what it looked like before. So this is how it started. I pulled this from Boston Globe in 1895, and that's it. This is what the want ads look like. You would show up and say, "I at 1075 Cambridge Street. I'm a barber. Can I have the job?" And that was it. And then that morphed into cover letters, and it morphed into resumes. And then it even got beyond that in the early part of the 2000s. Once keyword searching really became helpful, there are larger companies that use basically keyword sniffers, that if you're in HR and you put up a job posting, there are programs that will not show you resumes that don't have more than a 75% keyword threshold. To that. And so as a result of that, people had to write massive amount. There's a certain company that's here locally in Minneapolis that I won't mention the name, but it's red and it looks like a bullseye, that is notorious for that if you don't hit at least a 90% threshold in keywords, you're not even going to get somebody to look at you, because they have tens of thousands of referrals. But that's gone away now, because now people realize that, hey, I don't want to go there because they're not really going to value me as a person. They're just looking at me as a set of keywords. Now what we get is everything's on the table for an evaluation. And I actually stole this, Dave, from one of your slides, from one of your Google presentations, because it's
my hiring talk. Yeah.
Look at how an applicant is now looking at you. So everything's now on the table. They're not going to start with just what jobs are open. If you've got a job open, they're going to look for every reason not to apply for that job. What are the negative reviews? Are you inclusive of a lot of people? Do you use stock photos in your presentation? Things like that. Those are turnoffs. They're going to look at the news tab and Google to see what's really going on in the community. Are you making a change and making a difference? So again, I stole this is from one of your Google slides as well, Dave, because this means something different to an applicant. The business profile is an early indicator of whether or not you've got happy customers or not. And so obviously that's important for sales and marketing, but if you've got a lot of people who are disgruntled, or heaven forbid somebody has written a negative thing about how terrible it is to work there, that's going to completely mess up your opportunity to find really good applicants.
Right. And it's one of those things, especially the business profile is one of those things that a lot of businesses tend to overlook. You know, we're spending time on paying for Google ads, but we don't think about the stuff that we can get for free. And that ratings and those rankings and how well you respond to people and the things that you share as far as the culture or the videos and things so that people can browse you is incredibly important.
Yep. And we do, and I think we at BusyWeb do a really good job of that. We used to do these great funny videos, and funny obviously is an interpretive term, I guess, but we thought they were funny when we put them out, and they're still out there and you can still find them. But that's because that's a cultural thing that we have here internally. And if you don't think we're funny and you don't think we're interesting, you're not going to be a good fit for working with us.
Right.
Similarly, the majority of the staff at BusyWeb is women. There's maybe, I don't know, 5 or 6 guys out of the 20 who work here.
Mhm.
And so if you don't like working with women, or you have a problem with strong women telling you what to do, we're really not a good fit for you.
Right.
So we put that on the forefront because that's a cultural thing that we're trying to show right away. So it's important not only to understand from what's the first initial thing when somebody pulls up your company, what are they going to get, and how are they going to look at it? Because as a potential buyer applicant, they are looking for reasons to not buy from you.
Right.
Do you have the same political beliefs as I? Are you inclusive? Do you offer a work-life balance? Does it look like people are unhappy? Do you have a picture of a cube farm? Is that something that is a place that I really want to spend a lot of my waking hours? And if the answer is no, then I'm not going to spend the time filling out your application.
Mm-hmm.
What really this gets down to, Dave, is the basic flywheel that we talk about all the time, because applicants and buyers are spinning the same thing. And in the sales process, what we really think about this is, I think of this as business as a restaurant. There's a number of different parts of a restaurant, all of which are critically important to a customer experience. The host that brings you in, that's like the marketers. They're trying to find the table, find a good fit for you. Then your waitress is the engagement staff. That's the sales staff. That's the person who's going to tell you where you're going to be, how can we help, what are the problems you're having. Oh, you're hungry? Great. Let me give you a menu. What's good on the menu? Oh, great. Get the chicken. And then finally, the kitchen staff is the one who's actually going to do the execution. So all three of these things are equally as important as the other to providing a really great customer experience. And so as we apply this same model to recruitment, we have to ask ourselves a lot of really, really important questions, which is, what's the right fit person for us? Who's a good fit culturally for us? And how well are we attracting those? If we look at the candidate list for the last job we had open, how many of them were good fit culturally? Not whether or not they had the skills, but how many of them would we like to hang out with and go to lunch with? And then are we engaging with them in the way that they want to be engaged? And that's really, I think, gets to one of those preamble questions that asked us, Dave, is how do we really do that in a way that is helpful? And we'll talk about that in just a second. And then finally, once you in the selling process, once you make the sale and you continue to provide that great customer experience, that's the delight phase. So if you get through the recruitment phase and somebody starts to work at your company, then how are they continually being pleased? Are they continuing to do a good job? Are they getting affirmation? Are they sharing information about how much they like working there? All of those things go into that.
For sure. So I think as we build this out, one of the things that I love talking through is how culture works inside of an organization, and explicitly how you share your culture. So as we look, I think this is taken from a slide on HubSpot's actual culture page. So HubSpot does a brilliant job. And if you look up and Google, I believe it's the HubSpot culture code, they have a wonderful overview of how they treat their people, what people can expect, and what they value as an organization. The more you're able to elicit that and be clear, the more you're going to attract people that you want, right? So listing things on your website or in your social media posts or in your hiring pages on things that you do that's fun. You know, what are you doing that really helps people engage or that connects them to that company? Even if you do offer work from home, how do you keep everyone engaged? What do you do? What's the day-to-day look like? And why do people stay with you? And what appeals to your employees? So having actual testimonials from employees to say, I really value that busy web. It lets me work from where I want and values my input. And so the more that you can do that and that you can share in a clear, concise way that has easy links to your actual openings and positions and lets people subscribe if they want to connect or if they feel like they're connected to your culture, that's a huge win. So if you can share your culture, that's going to be a win for those people that you want to engage with. And like Trygve mentioned before, if the money's equal, a better fit wins every time. Are you going to want to work with someone or work with a company that doesn't share your values? Of course not. And so you want to share what your values are.
Traditionally, Dave, when people are looking at a job, it's one of the things you read on any how to survive the first interview checklist is don't talk about the money.
Yeah.
Because if you talk about the money, then people think you're only interested in the money.
Mm-hmm.
But if that's the only thing you have as a leverage to get to hire people is money, you're not going to get the kind of applicants you really want, because chances are good that those applicants aren't even looking for a job.
Right. I should note a few more people have joined, Trygve. So word's getting out about
Welcome.
the webinar. For everyone, be sure to enter in those questions if you do have them using the Q&A tool. Let's keep rolling. Content. This is one of the things that we talk about all the time in inbound. But when we talk about hiring content, it's slightly different. Trygve, what do we want to do inside of this?
So again, when we think about content, it really is a question of presentation. When somebody is looking at us, when you post videos of people working in a sale for a sales video, hey, come work here or come hire us to do these things. If people aren't looking happy at their job, but they're efficient, then that's not a great place to look at. What are the things that you do beyond? Can you share those cultural things? Like if it's Jenny's birthday today, hey, let's post a picture of how we celebrated Jenny's birthday, because we value our employees. How anytime somebody got a promotion, is that something that gets put out on social media? Hey, congratulations, Steve just leveled up. Because those are the kind of things that are going to show that you value not only the workforce from what you can do for a potential client, but also from a potential applicant standpoint. For sure. And the one of the great things that we talk about all the time on the sales side is case studies. How can you demonstrate what did you do, who did you help, what impact did they make in your life? That's a great selling tool, because that's going to show, hey, I did it for this guy, but I can do it. I can also do it for you. But from an applicant standpoint, you say, hey, I did this, and look at the impact we made, because the impact is the most important thing. So selling the impact of what you do is crucial as well. And I put a really key word on here, Dave, which is the applicant persona.
Yeah.
And that's something that in marketing we do all the time. We create a fictional representation of who we're looking for and encourage everybody to do that. There's a great tool from HubSpot about how to build out a persona that you can use that'll help you understand what really is the person that you're trying to hire looking for in a job, not just how much money or what the skill set is. Who are they? What are they frustrated with? What would they like to see out of their next job? Because you're really having to sell the opportunity to them at this point. Well, that's hard to do on a one-to-one basis, but you can do it sort of in mass. And the way you do that is through blogs. It's having conversations with applicants of where are we taking it up to the next level? How are we showing everything that we're doing that's fantastic? How are we making an impact? And then how are we growing our staff? And how did we have somebody who started at one point and grew to another point? How are we celebrating those?
Right.
And then finally, video is absolutely crucial in doing that, because there's no way to hide on a video. You're going to have to show who you are and what you're doing and who you are as a person on video. That's just as important for selling as it is for recruiting.
For sure. And telling your story from their perspective and why they should care, right? So for the first time in modern history, for most of us, employers need to sell themselves as much as to their customers as to their potential team members. Yeah. So a lot of times we get caught up in us focused content. So it's like, we have been in business for 35 years and we are the leader in blah, blah, blah. your applicants don't care. What they care about is it going to be fun to work there? And do our values match? So having core values and listing them on your website and sharing how your employees can meet that need through the content that you do, through videos, through blog posts, is incredibly important. And so make sure that you share that.
We talk about that on the marketing side and on the sales side of having a bad case of weemiitis. People say, "Oh, well, what's weemiitis?" Well, it's what you're talking about, what we want to do and what we do, and how I am the leader in my field, and here's how we are a championship level, blah, blah, blah. That's about me. That's not about what I can do for you.
Right.
And recruiting and people looking for a job, ultimately what they're trying to do is solve a problem, which is, how do I spend my days and how do I get money in order to buy goods and services?
Right.
That's fundamentally what the problem is. And if we can provide the right solution for that and give them a lot of other benefits beyond just medical and dental, that's really critical to being successful.
Right. And yeah, I think you can see the companies that are getting it in the job descriptions that they write. It's not, we're looking for a go-getter that can blah, blah, blah to fill these things. It starts by saying XYZ company is what you do, that how you help people with what they serve. And we're looking for people that match our culture of, in BusyWeb's case, it's integrity, fun, and education are our core values. So you just need to spell that out and share and invite people to join your little team.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep going. So integrating it all together is the next step, right?
Yeah. So this is kind of where it gets back to that original question of, well, where do I find new, better employees? And is there a magic wand or some sort of fairy dust that I can sprinkle on my pile of applicants that the best one will just sort of bubble up? And people come to us and ask that all the time. If I just use social media correctly, Dave, is that really going to make me $1 million? Well, no, it's not 2009 anymore, and you can't make $1 million just by putting up a Facebook page. In sales, what we think about in the front of the house applications and growth marketing, I should say, not just in sales, is what's called revenue attribution. So what we've gotten and grown to the point in our evolution as a growth marketing firm is we can pretty accurately tell you, based on the revenue that you got, where it came from. So what salesperson it worked with them, how the lead came in, all the way rolling back to the original marketing campaign that attracted somebody to look at that. So we need to do the same thing for applicants, which is to say, where did we find the last really great employee? Where did they come from? Was that something that we got because of an ad? Is that something we got because we were on LinkedIn or on HotJobs or whatever, or Indeed? Mm-hmm. Whatever. And right now, with unemployment being as low as it is, chances are good you're not going to get a great employee from a job posting. You're going to have to look at where they're congregating for the most information. That gets back to that applicant persona. Where are they spending time trying to make their day better? And chances are that's going to be on LinkedIn, that's going to be in specialized groups, and that's going to be in trying to make themselves better, not just from an employee standpoint, but as a person standpoint. Right. And you have to ask yourself the question: is the candidate you want even looking for a new home yet? And I would bet 9 out of 10 times the answer is no.
Right. Because I probably aren't stuck looking for work.
Yeah, exactly. And then, is your process amenable to your ideal candidate persona? One of the things that you have to understand, if you're working with people who are working, trying to get them to come to you, you're going to have to work over your lunch hour, because that's when your candidates are available. You're going to have to talk to people after 5 o'clock. Now, here's a funny story. Dave, for gospel, I'm relatively famous for one particular piece of clothing that I wear almost just about all the time.
Yep. Shoes.
Yep. I wear a very specific brand of black and white Spectator shoes that look like golf shoes. The reason I do that is because it's an old habit from when I was a recruiter, that if I used to, and if you go and do this, I don't know how much with the pandemic you really see as much of this, but you used to be able to see this where if you just sat in a Caribou or a Starbucks at about 10 o'clock in the morning for about an hour and a half and watched the door, what you would see is a series of progressive blind dates. People who are coming in and they haven't met the person before, they don't know who they're supposed to meet. And so I don't know where I'm supposed to go. Oh, is it you? Okay. Yeah. I'll come over. And that makes people nervous. And so what I did is I wore particularly outlandish, gregarious shoes. So I'd say, look for the big guy with the black and white shoes. People would instantly be able to pick me out, and they'd walk right over, and it would help me develop a relationship with them. That's because I needed to go where the candidate needed to be, which is to feel good about working with me to find a new role. And that was 15 years ago before I started in digital. Now the operative question is, what's the process for applying, and is it amenable to my ideal candidate persona?
Right.
If I had, somebody who you're trying to poach from another organization, they might not have updated their resume in the last 5 years. So if you do all that work and say, okay, great, now send me a resume, they're going to go, oh, no, thanks. No, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
But you do need something. So you have to figure out a way for those people who aren't just available to get you the kind of information you need to really make a good hiring decision.
For sure. So there's a whole life cycle to this. And I think as we build this forward, having the right people at the right time to engage and connect, and making sure that when you're asking the questions of your applicants, when you're sharing your culture and starting to engage them into the process, that they like what they see, and that, just like you just said, Trygve, that you're not adding too much friction in the process. Like, if it's super frustrating to submit a resume, you're probably not going to have that, especially in a hyper-competitive offer or in a hyper-competitive world. We're kind of in the same area with real estate right now. And one of the members of our team at BusyWeb just sold her house, and the offer that she accepted was, okay, it's 30 grand over ask, and I'm not going to make you jump through any hoops. You're not going to have to do X, Y, Z. And that was the one that she chose despite having multiple offers, right? So you have to think about your base of applicants as having those same options. And so as an employer, you have to make it as easy as possible for people to identify that they want to work with you, to take the next step. Unfortunately, and it seems like that I actually have another friend who went to apply to work at LinkedIn, and like everything in Silicon Valley, there's a massive amount of people that are now looking for jobs in Silicon Valley. So it's kind of flipped from what we've been talking about. But for people that are applying to LinkedIn, there ought to just be a button to say, submit my LinkedIn profile, right?
Yes.
But you can't do that. You have to actually submit a paper resume in order to get accepted to LinkedIn. So you have to fax it in, I think, is what he said he had to do, which is just bonkers, right? And how antithetical to what you're actually trying to accomplish in a social networking frame that bills itself as one of the main strengths as being a hiring tool. So, don't be dumb and think about the ways that you can get people set up. So as you look at it, also don't forget that even though you may have passed on someone in the past, that it makes a lot of sense to keep in touch with everyone that's been interested enough with you to have conversations, because you're probably more likely to be able to get them if they already know and like you, and if you didn't insult them in the process, right? It's hard to get passed over for a job and not hold some resentment. But if you do it right and say, it wasn't a perfect fit right now, but we'd love to keep you in mind for upcoming things because we love your energy and we think that you'd be a great culture fit. We just need to find the right space. That's going to keep that door open.
Yeah.
And so if you're not going around upsetting people everywhere you go, having those doors to come back through is going to be incredibly helpful.
I had a job open to work at BusyWeb 3 or 4 months ago, and I went through a recruitment process and an interview process, and went one guy kind of after the fact, and he didn't have a great resume, but he followed up with me and he said,
Yeah.
"Hey, what's the status? Would love to learn more." And I said, we're closing the rec. We really didn't find what we were looking for, but I really appreciate it. And if there are things I can do to help, let me know. And we've stayed in touch. So he's a good guy, and if there's something I can do to help him, that's great. And so one of the things that we're advocating here is how do making that community effort. And you don't treat people like cattle anymore. You got to start treating them as part of a relationship with the company, and not just in the HR function, but in how they're part of your world. How can you take advantage of that?
Right. And all that kind of comes down to inbound, right?
Yeah, so this is I know we've got a lot of new people in here who probably aren't familiar with, as we are, with the inbound methodology, but this is sort of the stages of the inbound selling process. Sales and marketing really are sort of the first three: attract and convert and close. And then delight is what happens after the sale. And so you can see there with the circles from in the sales process, it starts with a stranger, somebody who doesn't know us, doesn't know what our potential help can be. The first step is to turn them into a visitor, to have them come to the website. Then identify themselves in some way that says, hey, I have a certain bit of interest. Then they become a lead. Then our job is to close them and get them into becoming a customer. Once they're a customer, then it's our job to promote them. So if we look at that same thing, the same tools that are available to us on the sales and marketing side are available on the applicant side and the recruitment side. Strangers to visitors, visitors to leads, and then leads to candidates. And then once we get them in, then from candidates to promoters. And those are those happy people who are talking about how great they are. They go on Glassdoor and they fill out good reviews for you. And you can use all sorts of different tools. We have them listed out here, and I know we're coming short on time, so I'm not going to go into all of them in depth. But the process is the same. And so you can, if you're trying to figure out how do I get better people and more right people, it's time to sit down with your sales enablement team and your marketing team to figure out how can you take advantage of what they're doing, and can you have a voice at the table to help you with your recruitment efforts?
For sure. I know we've talked through a bunch. I do want to make sure that I'm, letting people ask questions if they do have those questions, both on YouTube and in Zoom. So don't be shy. Use the Q&A tool if you have specific questions. And we will be doing about 5 minutes at the end. If you'd like to just simply ask us, we're going to shut down the live stream and we can promote you as a panelist so that you can actually talk and ask questions. So if you'd prefer to do it that way, hang on till the end and we'll let you chat with us at the end as well. So let's keep going though, because we've got some really fun examples and samples about how all of this works. So the attract phase, as we go through, and again, we're going through this inbound recruiting methodology. As we look at first the attract phase, there's some really important things to consider when you're going through the engagement process. So what does this mean, Trig?
So when we're thinking about what the attract phase, what we want to do is start at the end. What's the best person? What's winning look like? Well, it's finding the best fit candidate. Okay, great. What does that best fit candidate look like? Not physically, of course, or not, any sort of demographic thing, but what do they want? Why are they even looking? Are they even looking? What are they interested in? What appeals to them? If your answer is money, then you got to keep looking and you got to keep digging. So once you have that, then you can compare that with your current digital footprint. If I'm coming in blind and I don't know your company and I have a certain set of needs and wants, am I going to find that digitally, or am I going to find something else? And if I don't find what I want, I'm gone, because you haven't validated the problem that I have, or you're not a potential solution. The easiest thing you can do here is have your best fit employee complete an audit. Say, hey, based on what you think it's like to work here, are you seeing that online? If you didn't know who we are and didn't have the experience, does your experience here measure up with what you read online? And if they
Right.
say yes, then great, you're good to go. If they say no, I really think X, Y, and Z, then it's time to work with marketing to really change that. And that's how you put your best foot forward in the attract phase, is really making sure that your digital footprint is not just sales based, but also recruitment based, because and culture based. Because just like we said, if you work at a place, you're going to spend a majority of the time there. People buy from who they like too. They're not going to buy from somebody who's a jerk unless they absolutely have to. So it's important to keep those three things, those things in mind as you're really going into the workplace to find the best fit candidate. Anybody can throw up a job, anybody can pay a certain amount of money, but that's not what real advanced recruiting is right now. Real advanced recruiting is finding the better fit, somebody who's going to be there for a long, long period of time.
For sure. And in order to win that, after you've attracted them, you need to take that next step, right? So
yeah, that's what in the sales, what we call the engagement phase, where you're trying to really figure out if this is a fit. What do we have to offer? What do we have to, what are we selling, basically? And some of that's culture, some of that's skill set, some of that's hard set, soft set, whatever. But a great thing that companies can do right now is create a candidate portal to say, hey, I'm interested. Let me put up a hand. Let me fill out a form so that candidates can self-identify that, so that when you do have a job opening, you can reach out to them and say, hey, based on how you've interacted with our company, we'd love to chat with you and learn a little bit more about that. Next is being transparent with the process. Hiring is famous for being completely dark on people. So let people know what you're going to ask of them ahead of time. At BusyWeb, on the sales side where you and I work, Dave, is we have a 4-step process. And I'm not going to go into it, but we made sure that anytime we interviewed somebody, we let them know exactly what those 4 steps were. The other fun thing that you can do is invite candidate to recruitment events. So if you're going to a trade show or something like that, and you have people that you're identified as some people you'd like to hire, invite them along with. Make sure that they're a guest.
Right. Let them meet you in person.
Yeah, and then if you've got if you need a lot of new hires and people just out of college, that's a great time to start a mentorship program, so that those people who are coming in really know there. But then the delight phase is key, because even if you get the best kind of person in and they come in and they say a cube farm that's all gray and people unhappy talking about their TPS reports, you're done. You're absolutely done. So continuing to delight your people through a notable application and interview process. Make sure that you're not asking the same boring questions. Tell me about a time when you felt bad. Or tell me about a time when you succeeded. Everybody's going to have an answer to that, and everybody's going to have a canned answer to that. That's not really telling anymore. And again, invite those second place candidates to keep in touch. It's not, we're not going to provide you with an offer right now, but we do think you're great. And we do like to keep in touch so that if another opportunity comes up, that we can consider you for it. And you do that by keeping a database of the good ones, the people who you really like and you think, oh, nuts. I really wanted to figure out a place for that guy, but the guy we hired was a really good fit. So, or the lady we hired was a really good fit. So if you've done the work, make sure that you take advantage of it by keeping the people who are almost fits. Because if they're almost fits, again, that just means that a little tweaking to an opportunity that comes up down the road means you don't have to start from scratch. Absolutely. And you can do that by referring to other divisions, because again, if you're a recruiter, the job is finding great people. Obviously, the main goal is to try and nail the process and fill your job rec. But if you can help other people along the way, then the company wins as well.
Right on. So as we look at this, I think as we're sort of wrapping up, and I do want to get us to a spot where people can ask questions if they'd like. And actually, if you do have a question, feel free to, and if you want to be able to chat with us, why don't you use the hand raise so that we know that you would like to ask a question live. Can't really do that with YouTube, unfortunately. So your last chance to ask a question right now is to log a chat in YouTube. But feel free to use Q&A if you want inside of the Zoom as well, or just raise your hand and we'll make sure to promote you so that you can ask questions live. But just kind of a final thought as we're talking through this. You're presenting your community when you're presenting your business. People want to join a place that's meaningful to them. They want to join a place where they spend the most of their waking hours, where they're going to have fun, where they're going to have good, challenging conversations that they find meaningful and helpful. They're going to want to spend that time well. And there's no more geography. So you can't bet or bank on the simple fact that, well, I know that everybody in this town is kind of tapped out. Now anyone can apply. And that also means that anyone that can apply or anyone from anywhere can also poach your employees. So it's important to share and to spend time investing in your company culture and your community. You want to make sure that people that already work with you love you. And unless you're getting some good referrals from within the company. So I think one of the things that I'm most happy about is one of our most recent hires actually came as the spouse of one of our current employees. I think that's incredibly helpful as a bellwether to know that you're doing the right thing about engaging people in your culture. So if it's working well, you're doing the right things. And
well, I think that what's really fascinating, Dave, is we're talking about work as a community. The picture we have on screen right now, two of the people in that picture don't work here anymore. They weren't fired. We didn't get rid of them. They didn't quit. Both of them went to other companies for better jobs. And both of them had an agonizing process in it because the culture fit was so great. So the money was better, and we shook their hand and we say, we love you and we wish you the best. And we're still in touch with those people. So they're still a part of our community, even though they don't work here.
We've actually gotten referrals from one of them too. So it's kind of fun.
That's true.
We've got a lot here. I don't see any raised hands, so I think we're pretty good. I'm not going to shut down the live stream, but I want to, offer up if you want more, all of this in the recruiting. I think the way to be a great recruiter and to find the right people is to subscribe wholeheartedly to Inbound, not just for marketing your business to customers, but to employees as well. So I encourage you to check out the marketing checklist, and that's at marketing.busyweb.com/SEO checklist. Everyone that attended today live on Zoom is going to get that via an email. Also remember to register for next month, the first Wednesday of every month at 11 a.m. We hold these busy webinars. Next time, if you're a data geek and you want to consolidate multiple streams of information, we've got a good friend of ours that actually is in person with us quite a bit at the BusyWeb offices because we like him so much. Craig Key is going to be sharing how to make informed decisions by blending your data. So be sure to sign up for that at BusyWeb.
Like a margarita blender, or no, it's probably
exactly right. Exactly right. And if you do it right, it gives you just the same buzz as you would get from
look at that. You got a buzz joke in there.
Perfect. Well, hey, thanks everybody for attending. It's always fun having these busy webinars. We'd love to hear back from you if you have an event or a topic that you'd like to hear about from us. You're the folks that we're trying to continue to engage and reach. So of course, tell us, respond to the email that you're going to get after this with any recommendations, any thoughts, any new topics. And until next time, thanks for joining. And gosh, I'm not even going to do the tagline this time, Trygve, can you believe it? I'll just say, let's all blend our data and get buzzed.
Yeah, exactly. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks for joining us.
Take care, everybody. Thanks.